So I want to give you a little bit of background, a little bit of history of how I got involved in this work, this community organizing work around our Gigabit network and civic hacking in Burlington, Vermont. But I first want to just tell you a little bit about myself and my background. So up until recently, I ran along with my partner, Jason Pelletier, a studio called Foundline, which was a creative studio. We worked with mission-driven nonprofit organizations. This was really interesting work we did for close to a decade. We did a lot of community organizing, we still do. Code for America Brigade, a project called Civic Cloud Collaborative that I'll tell you a little bit about, BTV Ignite, which I'll give you a little bit of background on as well. I just recently started working for IBM for a product called IBM Cloud. I work as a developer advocate, so if there are any software developers in the room, I'd love to talk to you about what we do. We're a globally distributed data layer for web and mobile applications. So, Burlington, if anybody been to Burlington, Vermont before? Oh, awesome. Wow, a lot of people. That's great. So Burlington Burlington is actually the largest city in Vermont, and we're about 38,000 people is our population. So I think we're the smallest city that's the biggest city in a state, if that makes sense. Burlington Telecom actually started initially by providing telecommunication services to city buildings. So it was strictly a municipal network, meaning just to city buildings. Then started building out residential service in 2005. And this is a fully fiber optic network. So back in 2005, our city was building out this fiber optic network and began offering gigabit service in late 2012. I was actually one of the first beta testers for this, and I have a background in networking and I kind of understood what the potential was for this fiber optic network that we had. Of course, the challenge was how to explain this value. How do we explain that what we have to our community? So, back in the 1980s, Burlington actually tried and failed to build its own cable company. Actually, anybody here heard of Bernie Sanders? Yeah, you guys know, familiar with him, right? He was actually the mayor of Burlington back in the 80s. And so I think partly for a whole bunch of reasons, I think partly related to this history, many people saw Burlington Telecom as a cable TV company. They didn't necessarily understand the value of it being a fiber optic network and what that really meant. So kind of the back of my mind was how do we demonstrate that true value of this fiber optic network? So back, like I said, what this allowed, then back in 2012, late 2012, when Burlington Telecom started offering gigabit service, light bulb went on that was something that we could really take and run with and help to explain the value of this network. That's something that you can't do that on other types of networks. You need a fiber network to do gigabit, to do full gigabit symmetric speeds to every household. So we did a couple of things to try to do around community organizing. We first did a gigabit salon shortly after BT started offering gigabit service. We brought I think it was close to 40 people we had came to that. We did a gigabit tweet up. So we really wanted to just have some informal conversations with people. What we found was that there was a real lack of knowledge about what BT was and that even a lot of people didn't even realize that it was a fiber optic network, for example. Then my partner Jason Pelletier and I, we did a lot of outreach to national organizations. So we reached out to a lot of places that are in this room: Mozilla Ignite, GigU, Free Press, Institute for Local Self-Reliance, US Ignite. So we just tried to call as many people as we could and have as many conversations as we could since we were just making this up as we went. So we wanted to talk to other people who have been there and maybe have a little more knowledge about this than we did. That culminated in us publishing a report called Burlington's Gigabit Opportunity. This was actually inspired by the Kansas City playbook, so thank you very much for publishing that. That inspired us to write this. We didn't go through the same process. This was more of an informal, just trying to really get people excited about what the opportunity was. So one of the things that we identified in this report, Burlington's Gigabit Opportunity, we actually laid out a strategy around developing a culture of innovation in Burlington. And we laid out this kind of a high-level strategy, and then we also laid out some specific tactics. And one of these things that we identified was starting a Code for America brigade, because we saw that as a way to develop gigabit apps and to get people really thinking about how we could use this gigabit network that we have. Of course, our thinking was, well, this is a great idea. Somebody else in the community can do this. We'll put this out there, and hopefully somebody else will step up and run with it. And then after some prodding from a few people and some conversations, we realized that if we didn't do it, nobody was going to do it. So we stepped up and we started this Code for America brigade with the National Day of Civic Hacking in June of 2013. Since then, we've had close to 100 participants in 5 major hackathons, regular meetups, and other local events. We've got different projects that have come out of this, a ton of different projects, but a few worth mentioning. Just quickly, I mean, they're all worth mentioning, but a few that I'll highlight here. Lakecraft. This is a educational game based on Minecraft, and what a few civic hackers did was they took OpenGIS data of the Lake Champlain Basin and ported it into Minecraft. So you can actually fly around Lake Champlain Basin, explore geographic features of Lake Champlain Basin for educational purposes in Minecraft. Another project was a Vermont music library. So we've got a collection of Vermont-made music that you can actually check out through the web and listen to Vermont-made music. And a green printing app. This was made for our local library, and I believe other libraries in Vermont have started using it. They have the library has a public access computer center, and you have a lot of people there who don't necessarily have a lot of computer skills and might accidentally print 100 pages when they meant to print 1. So they're not happy. They print out there's a bunch of wasted paper. They have to pay per page. So it's not just kind of a bad situation all around. So this is just a really, really simple app. All it does is it pops up when you go to print and says, "Are you sure you want to print 100 pages?" And they just hit OK or cancel, and hopefully they go, "Oops, I didn't mean to print 100 pages." So it's actually, I think they said it saved like, I forget the statistic, but 20 or 40% on cost of wasted paper or something. So it's been a fairly successful, really simple project. Another really exciting project that we're working on is the Civic Cloud Collaborative. This is actually close to a full rack of servers running within Burlington Telecom co-location facility. So it's wired directly into our gigabit network. So any customers who have gigabit service can connect to apps running in the Civic Cloud at full gigabit speeds. We're also wired into Internet 2, which is very exciting. So this is a platform for public, non-commercial internet applications and digital creative works. It's spearheaded by a local government access television station called CCTV, Center for Media and Democracy, with a bunch of other organizations, local organizations involved in it, a lot of volunteer efforts. We got a Knight Prototype Fund grant for it, which helped us move it along. So it's up and running at this point. We're still figuring out what our long-term funding model is going to be for it, but it's operational at this moment in time. And some of those applications that I mentioned, like Lakecraft, for example, is running on the Civic Cloud Collaborative, and that music library that I mentioned, those are running on the Civic Cloud. So so far I've been talking about kind of grassroots community organizing work that we've been doing. But since we started doing that work, kind of on a parallel track, there's also been some official and institutional support for this gigabit network. And back in October of 2013, Mayor Murrow Weinberger announced a partnership between US Ignite. So I'm not sure which number we were, something like the 12th US Ignite city, I believe it is. So this is an initiative to use our gigabit infrastructure as a tool, test bed, and accelerator for economic, educational, and community benefit. I wasn't involved a little bit with this, but the city launched a playbook, executive summary in October of 2014. So that's actually out on the BTV Ignite website. Members of the public can go and comment on it. So that's exciting. We're also, they're also hiring a BTV Ignite, or they're looking at potentially hiring a BTV Ignite coordinator, so somebody to work on this full time. And also I should mention that the City of Burlington is hiring a Chief Innovation Officer, so it'll be our first Chief Innovation Officer. So check that out if you're interested. So a ton of exciting things happening around this. We've got a new makerspace called Generator that's up and running. Champlain College has a cybersecurity as a service application that they're working on. Lots of really exciting related things in the tech community that aren't necessarily directly out of this, but are kind of in the ecosystem. For example, we have a Girl Develop It chapter that started about a year and a half ago. Girl Develop It's despite the name, it's an adult training program that provides really affordable classes on various technical skills. So that's a really awesome program. We've partnered with them. It's a great way to learn skills, and then they can come over to our Code for America Brigade and apply those skills on working on real apps. Great, so there's my contact info. If you have any questions, shoot me an email, and oops. There we go. Thanks very much.
So our next speaker, when we first started looking at Google Fiber, we looked quickly to Chattanooga, obviously. Ken will remind you that they were the initial gig city. They're still the gig city. And everyone said, man, you got to meet Ken Hayes. He is right at the middle of all this stuff. So please welcome to the stage Ken Hayes from Chattanooga.
I am not technology at all, so what do I go right? So I've, in the last 6 months, just sort of taken on the head of the Enterprise Center in Chattanooga. And Aaron has been bugging us pretty bad. Don't know right from left. So my secretary assistant sort of had fun with me and sort of said, Aaron had asked us some questions, and first was give a quick personal background. And so I'm going to tie these together. My professional career started when I met a Georgia peanut farmer who was governor of Georgia, and got involved in his campaign, and then at the age of 22 was able to become the assistant chief of protocol for the president. Part of why I'm doing this is because Aaron said, what qualifies you to do what I'm doing? And I'm going to let y'all figure that out. I don't know. I left Washington and joined some partners in the real estate business. And one of the, we've done a lot of urban development, but one of the things that most people know about, or at least have heard the song, is that our company owns the Chattanooga Choo Choo, which is a 24-acre, 362 hotel complex. My business partner, in 1996 had a midlife crisis and decided to run for mayor of Chattanooga. I was a good friend, a partner. I ran his campaign and became his chief of staff and had a ball working in city government for 3 years. I left City Hall to go run the not-for-profit development company called River City Company, which has been sort of responsible for the downtown development. And we had another mayor come in right after my partner named Bob Corker, who is the kind of person that you say no to, and he challenges him more so. So he announced in 2002 that we were going to do a $120 million redo of our waterfront, and we did it in 3 years from start to finish with planning. So I had the pleasure of being the master developer on that. And then in 2010, the question next was, how long did you volunteer and what you're doing before you did it? Oh, actually, that's not true. So then for 4 years, I got involved with leadership in what became, Gig City Chattanooga sort of effort. What drove me to, drove me to do all this as a volunteer? I love Chattanooga, and it's a great city. We've come a long way. And I volunteered for 2010 to 2014. And for those that you paid attention to the real estate world in those times, it was a good break to sort of get involved in Gig City kept you away from the bankers and, investors and such like that. The organization now represent is Enterprise Center. And going back before the Enterprise Center got formed, I mean, we had a volunteer group, and I think Bill's alluded to it. It was just, we weren't really sure what we were doing. I mean, I went up to, meet the NSF and met Will Barkus for the first time, I think in May of 2011. It was the first time that they had a meeting. Glenn was there. Bill Wallace hadn't joined yet. But we had this asset, and we didn't know what we were going to do with it. We still not sure what all happens with it, but we all sort of worked together, met Aaron, met folks from Burlington, met folks from a lot of places, a lot of friends out there. And so, but about 2 years ago, we all sort of got together and put some money up to do a strategic plan, because every time we'd get together, we'd sort of figure out that, we weren't going anywhere with this, and, that we'd have opportunities and we'd go work on those opportunities. But we put together a strategic plan. The Enterprise Center came out of that. And that's to establish Chattanooga as a hub of innovation. We announced yesterday an innovation district in Chattanooga, Tennessee. We've got a contract to purchase an 80,000 square foot building to create an innovation center. And our philosophy there is we're going to take sort of as much of the entrepreneurial, the research, the technical stuff going and put it into a dense, compact area. We're working real closely with the Brookings Foundation on that, and hopefully, in the next couple of years, you'll see it. We're going to move CoLab, which is our business incubator accelerator, into the building, and the Enterprise Center will move in there. And then our other mission is improving lives by leveraging the city's digital technology. We work a lot closely with partners, with Mozilla, folks that are there or whatever. But one of the great people we met in this whole process was Deb Sosha. And we will actually start a Tech Goes Home program, patterned after her highly successful program in Boston in February. And then to create, demonstrate, test, and apply solutions for the 21st century. Whatever we could do, I mean, we're working on that. Bill talked about some of the things we're going to do with the University of Southern Cal. We've got, I've got a board member here, Nate Hill, with the Chattanooga Library, who's, they've set up a gig tank with some of the Mozilla funding they got. I mean, we're playing. I mean, that's what we're trying to do. What do? We convene, we connect, we do project management, we evangelize. We also play the role of adult supervisor sometime, and we're also a pretty damn good travel agent for those that have come to Chattanooga, and have dealt with sort of seeing what our city is. And then our funding. When I took over the Enterprise Center, I inherited about $500,000 from some old earmark monies that was from a Connecting the Valley grant. Local government puts money in, foundations have put money in, and we're working on some programs now for private business. But I think anybody that's ever in organizations like this is that the funding is always a work in progress. So, and then if we were asked to sort of basically how do we connect with the community, we've got an unbelievable board of directors, and we have the leadership from the, we have city, county mayor on it, the Chamber of Commerce president, Chattanooga State, the University of Tennessee chancellor on there. We've got the most multi-generational board and we've got some brilliant 20, 30-somethings on it, and we've got, anchor institution leadership on it, and we've got good businesses on it. And they're a very, very, as Nate will attest, a very, very active board. Probably 80% of the board members are in some Enterprise Center meeting at least once a week because they care and they love Chattanooga as well. So, thank you.
So I mentioned earlier that Smart Chicago was one of the kind of peer organizations that I had seen that was doing this work. And when I first ran across it was probably 3 years ago, and it struck me as very much in the Code for America vein. Open data, civic tech, making government better. I didn't necessarily see the internet piece there, which made sense because of where Chicago was. And then US Ignite held their conference in Chicago, and it was hosted by Smart Chicago Collaborative. I was like, okay, these are the people. This is and Dan, please come back up to the stage again. Dan O'Neill.
Okay. All right. I can do that. We're going to relive our history. That's a lot of clicking.
It is a lot of clicking.
How's everybody doing? Remember that? Yeah, that was good.
Right.
Got the pipeline. We're going to scale.
Cabin only has one slide. It's great.
Now I'm going backwards. Awesome. All right. Dig it.
All right.
Wow. And it didn't even go through. Okay. Hello. How are you? Cool. Okay, so first of all, and you alluded to this earlier, Aaron, Chicago's not, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that Chicago's not a gigabit city. I think it'd be fair to characterize us as gigabit knowledgeable, certainly curious, and you know, there's a good history there, so it was a great day here yesterday. You know, we were listening to people like Blair Levin, who's so good at analyzing the raw economics behind the macro market of broadband provision. And Susan Crawford was here, and we're going to hear from her. She's so good at seeing the market distortions and the raw economics and the raw inequities that those economics lay bare. So I'm here, and we're here as a delegation, and Aaron, I really appreciate that model that you brought to this conference, this idea of city delegations. We're here from Smart Chicago. I'm here with my colleagues Kyla Williams and Sonia Marciano and Christopher Whitaker. We're here because we toil in the same fields as you. When the mayors of Kansas City, each of them, I'd never been in Kansas City before, to see that dynamic was pretty cool. So when we heard them speak so eloquently and with such great precision and knowledge about the pernicious effects of the digital divide and the payday loan robber barons, you know, we're with you. When Ms. Margaret May yesterday was up there speaking about the need for paper, for information to be delivered to everyone and the way they want to receive it and the way they're prepared to receive it in that moment, we're with her. We're all toiling together. So we're happy to be here. We're among friends. We're among fellow workers. Fellow toilers in these fields, these same fields that our president wrote about yesterday in his report on community-based broadband solutions. Wow, that's our stuff, huh? President talking about it yesterday. The report was subtitled The Benefits of Competition and Choice for Community Development and High-Speed Internet Access. Community development, these are our fields. These are the ones that we work together. The older I get and the grayer that I get, the more convinced I am that structure and process matter. And that's what we're all talking about in this session. I've learned that it's hard to do something unless you explicitly set out to do it and create explicit modes and methods in order to do it. It's currently fashionable in the world, one of the worlds that we inhabit, the civic tech world, the sort of, that it's really fashionable to be all about people. Everybody's about people these days. They're all down with people, up with people. Everybody's all about the people, it seems. But what I've come to see is that there's value in concrete structures for actually doing that, for being all about people. So that's what I want to talk to you about briefly, the Smart Chicago model, our structure and our modes. The Smart Chicago Collaborative is a civic organization devoted to improving lives in Chicago through technology. And I could have been a doctor or a community worker or a healthcare provider until I said the word technology. So that's what differentiates us. Pretty much every organization has a set of principles that they put on their website or their mission statement that some board spent a few hours, whiteboarding over, and some other blah blah that they put up. We actually live by our mission. I repeat them at the start of every meeting, and they're part of every decision we make. Our principles are technology, open, everyone, tech, and Chicago. We're all about technology. Everything we do relates to technology. We're of and about the internet. So we're relevant, I think, in this room. Most of all, we believe in the transformative power of the internet to change lives and to build the economy for all. It's a simple matter of equity to us. And we've heard many people speak of this yesterday and in our field. It's a matter of justice. We are open in the technology industry. The primary manifestation of that is the use of open source code, which is wonderful, great. But being open means more than just using a particular license on our software. It means being truly open to others, having open processes so that people know what we're doing, how we're doing it, and how they can affect what we're doing and how we're doing it. Open mind so that when we actually change our entire way of doing things, if we discover another way, instead of just listening, to actually have methods for changing once you've listened. This is about allowing others in, wherever that may particularly be. This is an in place, for instance, right? We had to be invited here. So it's our jobs to allow others to be invited. I've seen lots of organizations that gain strength and efficiency from a laser focus. The focus can be geographical or all about age or a particular activity type. At Smart Chicago, because our work is rooted in technology, our focus is on everyone. We've seen that there's a great value in the network. The network, the aggregation of human attention, is, as we've seen, the great creator of corporate valuation. There can be nothing in technology. The value is the network. We just heard it again with the laws. The value is in the network, so you have to include everyone. We have to be focused on everyone. And Chicago is one of our values. It's our middle name. All of our work is done there. But finding ways to be helpful to others without distracting us from our work is important, and that's why we're here. So we have 3 areas of work: access, skills, and data. So if you're not connected, why access? If you're not connected to the internet, it's difficult for technology to be of much use to you. I know you all care very deeply about that, and we're with you on that. But if you can't use the internet, being connected isn't going to be all that helpful. That's why we work on skills a lot. And this goes back in our history as an organization to we helped administer the City of Chicago's BTOP funds, which obviously care deeply about both provision of access as well as digital skills. That's part of our DNA. And data. This is where a lot of our partnership with Code for America and others work. We construe data as simply content. Once you have access to the internet and you can use it well, if there's nothing meaningful to look at, then you're really not anywhere. So we create tools and websites that help connect people to each other, to their institutions, to their government. We're founded by 3 organizations: the Macarthur Foundation, the Chicago Community Trust, and the City of Chicago. So I report to a board that consists of leaders from each of those organizations. You referenced this earlier, Aaron. You know, I go to work at the Community Foundation, the Chicago Community Trust, the 100-year-long institution, the one with the longest view of the most regional view. The Macarthur Foundation is well known as an international philanthropy. They're also based in Chicago. They do an enormous amount of community development work. They're practitioners in the space, and they're a major funder to Smart Chicago. And of course, the City of Chicago, the most relevant and important, notwithstanding my good friends at Cook County in the state of Illinois, the biggest policy lever in the region. So we function as a tech development outfit. We're a high-functioning tech firm, basically, in part, and it's part of what drives our revenue, that delivers on products focused on things like health and early childhood education and the justice system. But more importantly is we focus on this ecosystem. We make things ourselves, but we seek for them to be exemplary rather than, market dominating. There needs to be an ecosystem, a functioning civic innovation sector of the technology industry that makes Smart Chicago irrelevant. When it's firing on all cylinders, when the access, skills, and data are happening, when meaningful products are being delivered to the marketplace and are successful because they're killing it out there. That's when we don't need to exist. So we run things like the Civic User Testing Group, a set of more than 800 Chicago residents who get paid to test Civic apps, helping developers to meet and engage with people, with their customers. We have a developer resources program where we host dozens of apps on services like Amazon Web Service, Heroku, Twilio, Mapbox. We have accounts with each of these providers, and we provide hosting for free for all of them. So those sort of fundamental ecosystem activities are important to us. So we see that all of you city delegations here, you're already workers in these fields. You're already doing this, and we love what you're doing. In many cases, you were here long before Smart Chicago was, or others. You help till the land that we work in and to make it fertile, and removing the rocks and all the dead tree stumps, and you know who I'm talking about. Actually, I don't have anybody in mind. I'm just thinking you probably do. But we're here to work with you. So let's do this. Thanks.
So that's kind of what I want us to view when we grow up. That was great. That was really inspiring, and I think there's a huge opportunity to do this kind of work in all these cities. If you have questions, you can start raising your hands now. We've got about 10 minutes before we go to lunch. Leslie will have a microphone and be walking around. We've got a few, but certainly don't be shy. Bradley and Ken, you both talked a little bit about what you were doing before, what you're doing now. Dan, I know you were a civic volunteer before starting this as well. How important is that component? Because I mean, the question that everyone asks is how do you get the organizational component? How do you support it? How do you sustain? Is it necessary to have someone who sort of toils in these fields for free and mucks through it, or is there a way, as other cities look how to do this, to provide more institutional support? I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on that.
I think it's definitely a balance, but I think it's critical that you do have that volunteer aspect, and that you do have the people that are intrinsically motivated to improve their communities and want to do something to make their community, their city, their town, their region a better place. So you need those people who are motivated not for profit, but out of a sense of the common good. So at the same time, I think that institutional support is very important because it's easy to get burned out doing that. So you need to figure out how you can also bring in institutional support to fund positions and make things happen at that level as well. But you definitely need that grassroots. You need that community organizing. You need that passion that comes with that.
I totally agree. I mean, I think in our Chattanooga is a very, very collaborative community, and I think that, and when we've rallied and done the best as a community is when the business, the public, the private sector are all sort of involved, and so getting involved and I mean, in my particular case in this, it was a learning process. I mean, Glenn and Will taught me the difference between a gigabit and a megabit, so it was a learning process.
Yeah, you cannot underestimate or overstress the importance of volunteers and passion. It's important to recognize we live in the most sophisticated market economy on Earth. And that when you talk about institutions and structures, certainly economics and the market economy play a role in that. Whenever startups come to me, sometimes talking to, like they were doing this morning with the entrepreneur presentations, if they're not going as well as they want them to be, they say, what do you think we should do with our website? I often say, why don't you start a dog walking business on the side? What are you talking about? Everybody wants a dog walking business. Why don't you just do what people want? I mean, life could be really simple, and you can make money on that because there's a big market for that. So I think that kind of simple thinking actually can go a long way.
Benefits of having the microphone is you get to ask the first question. So what struck me, especially in Dan's presentation, was the shift from mere digital access toward digital inclusion, and that's a little bit more involved. And I wanted to see if you guys had any thoughts about how we make that shift, why it's important, and maybe on that grassroots volunteer level, how we can contribute to that process.
I think that making the shift, I know there's a lot of people here who work at libraries. It's not an accident. These things are already happening. I mean, there's an entire class of professionals focused on providing digital skills. In Chicago, we have Cyber Navigators that's been a program since 2001 that focuses on, in onboarding people without email accounts, people who need to apply for a job. It's an established field, and it's just a matter of, and this is why, again, why we're here, and I think the beauty of this conference is to draw all of those people together into a common mission. We need to construe our little subworld, because there's basically about 4 or 5 subworlds here, right? You got Muni Fiber people, you've got, Gigabit fetishists, you've got, Civic Tech, that's a neutral term. The Civic Tech type people. We need to construe our market, our movement much wider than we currently do, because they're already there, they're right next to us, they're right here.
I'll just add to that I think one of the reasons why digital inclusion is so important is it's really an extension of social inclusion, and bringing in, as we're building next generation networks and we're building the technology and the apps that are going to create our world. How much of our world, like how much time do we spend on our smartphones? How much time do we spend using apps? So I think it's surpassed TV watching at this point. I think there are statistics on that. So this is a huge part of our world, and who's building this technology, and who's it built for, more importantly. And I think it's important that we're building a world that's inclusive of everybody and built for everybody. So that applies to everything from the infrastructure level to the applications that we're developing. And that's why, for example, with our Code for America Brigade, one of our kind of unofficial mottos is everyone is a civic hacker. We want everyone to be involved in the work. It's not just technologists, it's really everyone. And how do we get people the skills to be able to do that and be able to build the future together?
I agree with all above. I mean, in our case, Chattanooga technology and entrepreneurship was not in our branding as a community 4 years ago. So we're building an ecosystem, and so we're learning a lot of what most of y'all, or a lot of you have done for a longer period of time, but we've got a one-to-one pilot program going on now in the schools that one of the foundations have funded and started, and sort of raising the whole level. And that there's been a battle about taking the devices home, not taking them home, or whatever. But one of the opponents of taking them home actually became the parents during the Christmas holidays, where the kids had just been on the tablets for about 2 months, and they were afraid to have the kids come home because they didn't know what to do with the internet. So we're having to do a lot of education, and it's a big part. But we're building a pretty strong ecosystem, and it's fun to watch.
We've got a question over here to your right.
I want to thank Aaron Deacons and his team for getting us all together. This has been really phenomenal, and if you want to applaud, please applaud.
Thanks, Eric.
So not only did you get us all together, but you got St. Louis together here for the first time, as I told you, but our group that came together is really beginning to come together to take this back to St. Louis and really work on it together with the help. It got started with the chamber, but we've never really gotten a work group together. And I was going to ask Aaron to keep us connected through some kind of listserv that we could share, ask questions, but also have content. But then I thought, how do you guys keep your communities connected with information, questions, sharing with your internal group, your work group, your task groups, and your community at large? Do you use listservs? What are the technologies you're using to help connect your community and your work groups and the people who are making it happen?
I would say my first answer to that would be that we're very intentional with Code for BTV, our Code for America Brigade, that we are setting out to build a network, not an organization. So we're not mandating or setting out any specific communication channel. It's about person-to-person interaction. How do we get individual people networked and connecting with each other? But to answer your question more directly, we do use Meetup for organizing our Code for BTV meetups. We also have a great, awesome set of technology community user groups and technology meetups that use Meetup as well. So there's a lot of discovery across groups through that as well.
It's evolved organically in our community well. Now, I think every organizations, the people that are stepping up to the plate, all have their ways of communicating, and it seems like that, in the last couple of years that it's, you're not lacking for, meetups and getting together, and, the leadership that's involved in all the organizations sort of do a real good job in our community of letting everybody know what's going on, so.
This is definitely the thing that keeps me up at night, that I'm missing whole swaths of people. I know that nobody I know voted for Nixon, and I think that could be a big problem because the guy was elected, right? I was just showing my age. The people who laughed, there weren't that many people who laughed. Isn't that funny? But to answer the question directly, we publish all the time. Christopher Whitaker is an amazing resource for us. He's a consultant for us. We publish blog posts all the time. We are very active out on all the normal social networks. We post and go to lots of meetups. We have the Civic User Testing Group with 800 people. One thing we've learned, giving people money is a great way to engage with them. They're really into that. People like money. So we give people a $5 gift card to just sign up for the Cut Group and tell us what I know Chattanooga has a Cut Group as well. We pay consultants. We have 11 people right now that we have consulting contracts with. And again, I'm not being flip. I mean, that is a way to engage with people. That is a way to get attention and to work with and to influence and to try to move forward.
Terrific. Thank you all. Oh, we'll do one more question. Go ahead, Will.
Okay, this has come up a couple times in the thanks to Aaron Deacon, and yesterday I guess Alan Fitzpatrick from Charlotte asked a question. Came up last panel a little bit. I see it now. The need for the social infrastructure, and especially like the key node, the connectors, the leader, someone who wakes up every day thinking about this, and can't always do it as a volunteer. It only lasts so long, right? And then you need to get paid. You need to pay your rent or your mortgage, whatever. So how many other communities have an Aaron Deacon who's paid by somehow to do this, or Ken Hayes now is, I guess, or how many thinking about it? Is this a key piece that we don't talk about it, but you need?
I think it's an important piece. We're just starting to get there. Like I said, we're hiring a chief innovation officer. We're hiring a BTV Ignite coordinator, or I should say the city of Burlington is. But I think we need to do a lot more. We need to get a lot more institutional support to bring the funding, to bring the resources to bear, so we can get a lot more people working on this. And actually, I think it's important to mention too that not everyone has the opportunity and the privilege of being able to volunteer. So I think there's something to be said for that too, as far as having paid positions, that can give an opportunity to people who might not otherwise be able to have the financial means to be able to volunteer their time.
It's definitely needed. I after taking a sabbatical to go run the Enterprise Center, I was sort of leading an effort to find somebody, and then got convinced that I just ought to keep doing it. So, and I enjoyed it a lot better. Than going. We were working on some real estate deals that were dealing with sewers and dealing with connecting people. Just wasn't as exciting as what I was doing. So it came out along, but it was killing me because as more opportunities came up and I was playing that role, it needed to be done. And we should have probably done it 2 years before we did it, because I think we missed a lot of momentum and opportunities to do what we were doing.
I love that idea of the privilege of the volunteer, and I hadn't thought of it that way, but that's absolutely true. So yeah, we need everybody to do the work.